Hi, I'm Richard Cranes-Rutz, Executive Director of Mission Advancement for the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. Thank you for joining us for our virtual Uncorked wine event. If you have never joined us for this event, welcome. And for those of you that have been with us before, thank you for coming back. Since we made the decision to go virtual once again this year, we decided we needed to change things up a bit. So this year, we will be coming to you from the beautiful Noble Ice Vineyards. As you notice, I'm in their beautiful barrel room. And we will also be coming to you from the historical Carondelet Mother House. You will also hear from our wine expert, Mike Ward, as well as caterer and food stylist, Linda Pilcher. They will share some great information about wine and food pairings that will complement each other well. We also will have some musical entertainment by Ribtip Rogers. We have a new and exciting format, so we hope you enjoy the presentation.
Hi, I am Sister Pat Quinn. Welcome to Uncorked. Some of you might know that I was born and raised in Kansas City. So on behalf of the Sisters of St. Joseph everywhere, we offer a special welcome to our Kansas City attendees. This fall, we will celebrate the 155th anniversary of the Sisters of St. Joseph in Kansas City. We made our mark in the area when we opened St. Teresa's Academy in 1866. We went on to establish St. Teresa College, St. Joseph Hospital, and many more important ministries, which includes the grade school and high school I attended, Redemptorist. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful evening.
Now, let's get things started with some advice from our wine expert.
Hi, I'm Mike Ward, here with Syncopation Wines, and so excited to be part of the Uncorked event again this year. Been doing this for several years. It's such a great and worthy charity, the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. It's my honor to be a part of this event once again. And also, I enjoy talking about my wines, Syncopation Wines. Syncopation Wines is a creative venture for my wife, Mary, and I. We started in 2014. Our wine is made at Noble Ice Vineyards in Augusta, Missouri. It comes from the very grapes that you see around me on either side from these vineyards in Augusta, which is America's first designated wine-producing region. Our wines are blends. The wines are made by the winemaker here at Noble Ice. And then Mary and I come in after the wines have been made and cellared for a while and put together the blend from the available grape varieties that the winery allows us to have. In this case, for our Syncopation Acoustic White Blend, we use 4 different Missouri grapes that I'm so proud of: Vignoles, Vidal Blanc, Viognier, and Traminet. Each grape in this wine has its own job to do. It could be introducing tropical fruits or citrus fruits or lime like the Vignole. It could be adding acidity for the balance of the wine. Mouthfeel like the Vidal Blanc adds to make the wine a little bit bigger and bolder and able to pair well with different foods. Or the Viognier, which is a unique and interesting grape for Missouri that adds a little complexity to the wine on the back end. The wine is dry. It's not a sweet wine, it's a dry wine, which helps it and allows it to become a good food pairing. We like to see this wine go with spicy cheeses, seafood, pasta, chicken dishes. It's very versatile. It'll go with almost anything that you're grilling this evening and whatever comes before that grilled meal as well. If we look at the color of our white wine, it's really interesting. It's sort of gold in color. And really this comes from the Vidal Blanc. And the Vidal Blanc is grown at a little single vineyard about 2 miles away from where we're standing. Vidal Blanc is a very interesting hybrid grape, and a grape that we should be so proud of to have here in Missouri. It is a little bit like Chardonnay in its appearance and its taste and its boldness, but I think it's even better because it brings in a higher acid component. So cheers to Syncopation Wines. I hope that you're enjoying the wine with the foods that you're having this evening. And again, I'm Mike Ward and excited to be here. Cheers.
Thanks, Mike. And now let's hear some suggestions from Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Pilcher, and I'm a caterer and food stylist here in St. Louis. And I am very happy to be here today for the Sisters of St. Joseph and their Uncorked wine event. So what we're going to do today is pair some foods with these wonderful wines. So I've made some appetizers today that I think will pair very well with the wines that you're tasting. We've made a flatbread, some shrimp scampi, and some lamb meatballs. But besides that, there are other things that you can add to your appetizer buffet that are easy. And making a charcuterie cheese tray with some cured meats and olives, wonderful with wine, just absolutely delicious. Also, you can do roasted nuts. Now, I made these nuts with a little bit of fresh rosemary in them, and brown sugar and butter and cayenne, which you just can't stop eating them once you start. We also have some little tiny dark chocolate cupcakes because you'll want to end your party with just a little bit of sweetness. And chocolate goes really well with the jam session. It's delicious. The first wine that we're going to taste today is the Syncopation Acoustic Blend white wine. It is a dry white wine that's similar to Sauvignon Blanc or an unoaked Chardonnay, and it pairs with this very same sort of things that you would have with those wines. It's great with seafood. It's light, it's acidic, it's crisp. The shrimp scampi appetizer I prepared in a very similar way that you would just make a typical shrimp scampi. Start with a little butter and olive oil in a pan, you warm it up, and then you add garlic, shallots, and a little red pepper flakes for a little zip. When that is sauteed, a little brown, you add in your shrimp. And I use 2 pounds of peeled and deveined fresh shrimp. And you saute that until it is turning pink. And just to emphasize the taste of the wine, I put in a splash of the white wine that we'll be pairing it with. And then you add salt and pepper and lemon juice and Italian parsley on it. Let it just finish cooking in the pan. And then you can put it on a platter and serve it with little picks. And you can serve it at room temperature. You could serve it hot, or you can just let it cool off so you're not cooking at the last minute during your party prep, and serve it at room temp. The Syncopation dry white wine goes beautifully with any kind of seafood. It also pairs well with lemon, and it goes with salty cheese. So enjoy.
And now let's hear from our musical guest, Ribtip Rogers.
Hi, we're Ribtip Rogers. We'd like to thank the Sisters of St. Joseph for inviting us to play for you, and we hope you enjoy our music.
Well, down in New Orleans, everything's fine. All them cats sopping that wine. Drinking wine is their delight. When they get drunk, they dance all night. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Holy, holy, pass that bottle of me. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Wine, wine, wine. Wine, wine, wine. Wine, wine, wine. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Holy, holy, pass that bottle of me. You got a nickel, I got a dime. Let's get together and buy some wine. You can buy it by the pint, buy it by the quart. You buy it in a box, you're just plain smart. Wine, wine, wine. Holy, holy, pass that bottle of me. Wine, wine, wine. Wine, wine, wine. Gotta have wine, wine, wine. Just a little more. Wine, wine, wine. Hey, wine, wine, wine. Holy, holy, pass that bottle of me. All them cats socking that gin. Cat come in, want a bottle of wine with. They flip that dude for $1 and a dime. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Holy, holy, pass that bottle of me. Drinking wine, wine, wine. Talk about wine, wine, wine. Blue night, wine, wine, wine. Ripple, wine, wine, wine. Wine, wine, wine. Holy, holy, pass that bottle of me.
And we're back. Hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was fantastic. Now we're back to talking about wine. One of the things we do at Syncopation Wines is blend red and white grapes together. Something unique, something ancient actually, something that's been done for a long time, but we don't think about that on a day-to-day basis when we're making blends, blending red and white grapes together. Rosé is one of the most popular categories of wine nowadays. It is extremely popular. It's been around for a long time, and people kind of think of rosé as a seasonal wine, a summer wine, and it is. And I encourage you to drink rosé in the summer when it's hot. But it is really transitioned into a year-round wine. You can have it with Thanksgiving, which is coming up. You can have it with Christmas dinner. You can have it all year round. Don't feel like you just have to limit yourself to it as being a seasonal wine. In this case, for our Duet Rosé, we have 2 grape varieties. The name Duet, 2 grapes. You see the connection. The red grape, which makes up the majority of the wine, is a grape called Chambourcin. Actually, one of my favorite grapes that we grow here in Missouri. It's such a wonderful grape, such depth, such great fruit. It just makes a wonderful food wine. It has nice balance of acidity. The white grape that we use in this wine is Traminet. And Traminet also is very complementary to the rosé, only in here in about 10%. Brings in a little bit of that floral component, brings in a little bit of acid to balance with the Chambourcin, and make for what I kind of feel is a French Provence style rosé. Best to serve this wine at about 50 degrees. It needs a little chill, not too much, just a little chill. Foods with this wine, yes, anything you're serving tonight, almost within just a few limits, but salmon, maybe grilled salmon, barbecue, pork steaks, chicken dishes, pasta with a red sauce. That acidity is going to go fantastic with that tomato sauce and just be a perfect pair. Doesn't need time to aerate. You can open it up right when food is finished and right after you've cooked. And I hope you enjoy it. Syncopation Duet.
Thanks, Mike. And now let's hear some suggestions from Linda.
I'm going to be making a flatbread, which is very similar to pizza. It's just generally when you do a flatbread, you roll it out a little thinner so it has more of a crackery sort of texture to it. But it's the same process. It's the same kind of dough. It's a dough that's made with yeast, water, and flour, basically, and a little salt. So what I did to make things easier for entertaining is to buy a ready-made raw pizza dough. And so I looked around to see where you could find really good ones, because I'm sure you could buy them at a regular grocery store, but they're going to be made in a factory somewhere and won't be as delicious as if it were homemade. So that's where we started, was with a ready-made raw pizza crust. When you use a ready-made dough, you want to bring it to room temperature before you try to roll it. So you can leave it in the freezer until the night before you use it. If it's frozen, if it's refrigerated, just leave it in the refrigerator. You can use it up to 2 or 3 days after you've purchased it. You take it out of the refrigerator and let it sit at room temperature for a couple of hours. You'll see it kind of starts to expand at that point. And then I usually use a big cutting board dusted with flour. I put my dough down on it and use a rolling pin to roll it out. Roll it out as thin as you can. If it starts feeling sticky, add a little bit more flour to your board or to the top of the dough. And then you're going to transfer it to a cookie sheet. And to be safe, a little trick is when you're rolling it, roll it on a piece of parchment paper. And that way you can just transfer the paper right to the cookie sheet. I also take a fork and poke a lot of holes into the crust, which helps to prevent it from bubbling up and just, having a big craters in your dough after it's baked. And I also brush it with a little olive oil, but I have heard you can also brush it with milk before you put it in instead of olive oil. And you just use a brush it all the way to the edges. It will help it brown while it's baking. And then you take your crust and put it in a hot oven. I set my oven at 425, so it was a pretty hot oven. Put it in for 5 minutes so it gets a little bit of brown before you add the toppings to it. So when you take your flatbread out of the oven after you have baked it for about 5 minutes, and if it's not quite brown enough for you at that point, leave it in a little longer and just watch it. After that, I'm using sweet and savory toppings today for this flatbread. You can be creative and use whatever you want on it. Like you could use a red sauce and Italian sausage and provolone. You can make it more of that style of pizza. This one is a kind of a fall flatbread where I started with a fig jam, which I purchased at a grocery store. I would make sure that it is a pure sort of jam without a lot of added things, and that it has little bits of the fig seeds in it because I like that part of the texture of it as well. So I spread a thin layer of that on the bottom of the flatbread, and on top of that I used caramelized onions, which I made, and just spread a nice amount of those. The flatbread is great served at room temperature. It doesn't have to be hot. So if you're having an hors d'oeuvre buffet, you can just put it out there and people will still enjoy it at room temperature. So I did the onions, and then on top of that I took a little bit of fresh goat cheese. And the goat cheese is a nice addition because it's not too heavy and dense, and it has some acidity to it and some tartness that pairs really well with your figs and your onions. So I just sprinkled goat cheese over it. You could even use feta if you wanted to use feta. It's very similar kind of texture. And on top of that, I put fresh thyme leaves. It gives it a little pop of freshness and a fresh color. And then I put it back into the oven from anywhere from about 8 to 15 minutes. And again, you've got to have to watch your dough so that it's at a brownness that you like. Take it out. Let it rest a couple of minutes and then cut it. That is delicious. It really is dry. You know, we don't think of Missouri wines as being dry, but these wines that Mike has made at Noble Ice are dry and would be perfect food pairing wines.
Now let's hear another song from Ribtip and Rogers. I don't know about you, but that was entertaining. Let's go back to Mike.
Happy to be here with you, all the folks in Kansas City. Hope you're enjoying the event. You certainly have some wonderful wines to try tonight. And what a great event for the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. Just a great honor for me to be here talking about these fantastic wines. So you have 3 wines tonight, or 3 different choices from some of the most unique and interesting growing regions of the world. The white wine that you have is Chenin Blanc from South Africa, from a region in South Africa called Swartland. The winery is Storm Point Winery. Chenin Blanc has a great and long history in South Africa. It's been there since the 1600s, making these wines that are lightly acidic with a creamy after finish to them. Great food wines. Chenin Blanc is such a versatile wine. It can be sweet, it can be dry, it can be sparkling. It can almost do anything that you want it to do. In this case, it's a dry white wine that's going to match with whatever you're eating tonight. Then we have an Italian wine from the Emilia-Romagna region. It's a wine from Lambrusco, and specifically it is a grape called Lambrusco Sabara. It's a clone of the Lambrusco grape variety. It should be, if I'm guessing right, a little bit on the rosé side, and that's what the grape's all about. It has a thinner skin. Lambrusco is fizzy, maybe slightly sweet. It's really one of the best food wines of the world, matching with pasta and any kind of meats that they have from the region, dried meat or spicy sausages, things like that. Anything they make in Emilia-Romagna pairs well with Lambrusco. The next wine you have is big and bold and spicy. It's a red from the Monastrell grape variety from central southern Spain, kind of on the eastern side, closer to the Mediterranean. Monastrell has a great history there. It is a French grape that grows well in this particular part of Spain, and it is spicy. It is big, it is bold, it is tannic. It's going to be a great food wine. Give it a little air. Let that Monastrell open up a little bit while you're enjoying the other two wines, and then get ready to have a food experience that you will really, really enjoy. And we're back. I hope you're enjoying the wines. I am, for sure. They're fantastic. So now we're here to talk about Jam Session, one of my favorite wines that we make. It's an amazing wine. It's a red and white blend of red grapes and white grapes. And it is a semi-sweet wine. Don't be afraid of that statement, semi-sweet. It has just a little bit of sweetness, and I'll tell you where that sweetness comes from. Our base for this wine is Norton. And Norton is the state grape of the state of Missouri. It's a wonderful grape. I think it's a good blending grape. It also makes a nice port. In this case, it's totally dry, unoaked Norton that's going to bring in that tannin structure, fruit, and a little bit of spice to the wine. And then I add two more grapes, two white grapes. One of them is Vignol, one of my favorite grapes here in Missouri. It's going to bring in a little acid and a little bit of citrus, and it has just a slight lime component that might be hard to find in this wine, but it's in there. The last grape that we add is Traminet. I use Traminet that the winery makes into a sweet wine. So 10% of this wine is a white grape, and 10% of it is sweet. So what's that sweetness going to do? First of all, most important, it's not added sweetness, it's sweetness from the grapes. It's grape sugar, which is important. And what that's going to do is add some sweetness to it. Don't be afraid of that sweetness. It's just going to be in there. It's going to make the wine balanced. It's going to help it be the first and best pair with spicy foods. If you're a spicy food lover, Latin cuisine, Thai cuisine, possibilities are endless, and the amount of spices is endless as well. This is the wine for you. It's going to really match well with that type of cuisine. So it's not a dessert wine, definitely. It's considered semi-dry or semi-sweet. Very proud of the fact that this wine in 2018 won the award at the Governor's Cup here in Missouri as the best semi-sweet wine in the state. Something we are extremely proud of for our wine to have won this prestigious award. My recommendation would be to give it a little bit of a chill. 55, 60 degrees, just allow it about 10 or 15 minutes in the refrigerator. It's going to make for a fantastic wine for you. It needs a little bit of air. So open it up, let it breathe just a little bit, serve it at the right temperature, serve it with the right food, and you're going to enjoy it. This is a fantastic food-friendly wine, and you're going to find that food that you're really going to enjoy with Jam Session. Cheers to Jam Session. Hope you're enjoying it.
Thanks, Mike. And now let's hear some suggestions from Linda.
Our final pairing is with this delicious wine that's called Jam Session. And just the name implies that it's going to be jammy. And so it is a red wine that I would compare to Zinfandel. It has just a little sweetness in it that makes it pair great with anything that's spicy. So we made a Moroccan spicy lamb meatball. You could serve it with Thai food, you could serve it with curries, and it goes great with barbecue, which everybody in Missouri loves, so try that. So the ingredients in these lamb meatballs are spicy red pepper sauce, which is harissa, and you add that to dried breadcrumbs, and that's your base. And then you add ground lamb, cumin, coriander, ground fennel, has a lot of basil in it, and some parsley, shallots, and garlic. And you mix all of that together really well and make meatballs with it. If you want to make your task a little bit faster, you can use an ice cream scoop and scoop the meat, and then just drop it on cookie sheets and bake it. If you want your meatballs to look perfect, you might have to go back and sort of shape them a little bit so they look better to your eye, but it really doesn't matter if you don't care. And what I did was cook them probably for about 10 minutes on 350, 375, and then you turn on your broiler and just finish them for like 2 minutes on the broiler. I also thought about if you used these meatballs, you could also make like a pasta sauce with them and serve it over pasta or spaghetti. I also made a dip, a cooling dip to go with the meatballs because they're hot. So this is kind of like a green goddess dip. I put it in the food processor. It's mayonnaise, sour cream, lots of fresh herbs, including basil, mint, and dill. Probably has a little bit of garlic in it. And you just grind it all up. And the secret ingredient there is anchovy. So if you like anchovy, fabulous. If you don't, you can leave it out. But it adds such a depth of flavor that just makes it so much more yummy. So here's to spicy foods and jam session.
Now let's go back to Ribtip and Rogers.
City, here I come. I got some pretty little women there, I'm gonna get ready for them. I'm standing on the corner of 12th Street and Vine. Hey, standing on the corner of 12th Street and Vine. Well, Kansas City, baby, a bottle of Kansas City wine. Well, I might take a train, yeah, I might take a plane. I'm gonna get it in the same Kansas City. Here I come. I got some pretty little women there. I'm gonna get me one. I'm gonna go just the same. Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. I got pretty little women there, I'm gonna get big. And if I gotta drive, I'm gonna drive 105. I don't care as long as I'm alive in Kansas City. Here I come. I got crazy little women there, I'm gonna get me one. I got some crazy little women there, I'm gonna give me one. Well, the crazy little women, I'm gonna get me
Thank you for your support of the sisters and their mission and ministries. Because of generous friends like you, we are able to do so much for those in need. Together, we truly are more. Thank you and bless you all.